Right after we wrote the script for Star Trek First Contact, about a year and a half ago, one of the first people that we sought after the actors was Jerry Goldsmith. Obviously, he was a part of Star Trek lore and had done Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 5 and had done the theme for me about 2 years ago for the television series Star Trek Voyager, and I kind of re-fell in love with him at that point because I had been very aware of his music. One of the things that makes Star Trek most popular to a huge portion of the fans is the fact that it has a very hopeful vision of the future. Star Trek deals with a better form of mankind and a better society, and it tends to send a very uplifting message. And I think that in a world where a lot of people have a great deal of doubt about their future, that Star Trek means something very special to them because of this very positive nature of what Gene Roddenberry's vision tells the world they have to look forward to. In a film like this that has so many emotional levels to it, it's got action, it's got excitement, it's got terror, it's got fear, and it has a great deal of heart and sentiment to it. The music is an essential part to bring all of that to fruition. We can do all we can in terms of the writing and the direction and performances that we get, but music is always there and is always the essential part to bring all these things to light. And Jerry has done that scene for scene so far. It's remarkable. There are emotions that had almost been forgotten in the writing stage that all of a sudden come back to light when you see a piece of film that you've seen 40 or 50 times all of a sudden with a piece of score on it. There's something very special about the music because it sort of has this sense of completion to it. It has a sense of closure to it. You work so long. I've been involved with this film for 22 months now, and then one day, a month before it opens, all of a sudden these beautiful pieces of music are put on the film, and it kind of validates the whole process. It sort of tells you it's all coming to an end. It's like putting the final finishing touches on something. Gene was very involved in the first 2 years of The Next Generation, which was in basically 87 and 88. Since then, we had 5 more years of that series, and we're in the 5th year now of Deep Space Nine and the 3rd year of Star Trek Voyager. I think one of my jobs has been to try to keep Gene's vision relatively true. Star Trek is not my idea of what the future is, it's Gene's, and that's a very important thing.
It's essential that I work with the filmmakers. I think that collaboration is essential for me. I need their input. And I think they have my input back too. So filmmaking is truly, in the best of the time, a collaborative medium. So we should all work together. So I need the input from a producer and a director. This Star Trek is sort of interesting. I rarely have worked on, I haven't done that many pictures that the actors, stars have been the directors. And this is sort of interesting, sitting with the director who was also in the picture. It doesn't happen to me that often. And so I'm looking at the screen and saying, the same guy sitting next to me. Star Trek has a very symphonic sound to it. I think that was established when I did the very first film, Star Trek The Motion Picture, where we used close to 100 men. I think it was 98 men on. I wrote it in a very symphonic fashion, and since then that's been sort of the genre of all the films. Well, I think First Contact in many ways explains what's behind Star Trek, and very simply that Star Trek really, to me, is about goodness and tolerance and in life in a peaceful world. And you can't really argue with that. And I think that that's sort of what, if you distill what Star Trek's all about, that to me is what it's all about. And I think that is sort of the overall message in this picture. Well, people have asked me what I think about this music, and I said, I don't know. I mean, I wrote the music, and one shouldn't have to qualify it. I think that once the composers create a piece of music, the music has to speak for itself without any additional help from the writer or anyone else.
Jerry never gave me formal music instruction when I was growing up at all. I had teachers. I had a drum teacher and a piano teacher, mallets. There was music in the house, and I was always around it. Came to a lot of the sessions. It was wonderful.
I decided on that out of the 68 minutes, about one third or 20 minutes of music would go to Joel, and I picked the certain scenes that I thought would be more apropos for him to do, and that's the way we did it.
I think it's easier for me to work with actors having spent so many years as an actor. And in this movie in particular, I'm working with people, as I said, who I've spent most of the decade with. And our guest stars were no slouches either, in Alfre Woodard and Jamie Cromwell and Alice Krige. So it was quite a good company of actors, and the lack of respect for each other was quite evident. The music for a film is written, in this case, I don't know how other composers work, only after the film is cut together and delivered to Jerry Goldsmith, in this case. And what I've found from spending the last week here on the scoring stage is that it is clearly, I mean, all the cliches come to mind. It is the icing on the cake, and it is the enhancement, that the unspoken emotional quality that good music has heightens the picture. And it's been quite thrilling to be around and watch scenes that we already liked get recharged by his talent. I think the characters in the film are more evolved just by virtue of having spent so many years. We did 182 hours of the TV show, and we did a film called Generations, and now we're doing this First Contact. So we've spent a lot of time together as characters. And the writers, Brandon Braga, Ron Moore, Rick Berman, have spent a lot of time voicing these characters with these actors playing them. So there's a nice depth and intermingling that it's just a natural result of spending, working so long together. If we are so lucky as to make it to the 24th century, we should also be so lucky as to be the kind of people who are on Star Trek. Caring, thoughtful, intelligent, unselfish, against racism and against sexism, and not terribly capitalistic. I mean, the characters as drawn by Roddenberry 30, or in our case, 10 years ago, hold up. And I think that's the secret to the success of the, whatever you want to call Star Trek. Jerry Goldsmith is probably the single biggest heavyweight on the feature. He's obviously one of the geniuses of his era, but he's also, I've heard him referred to as the Stravinsky of cinema, which I don't think is far off. He also happens to be a gentleman, but it has been awe-inspiring to sit in the scoring stage and hear what he's done to some of these scenes and how tasteful he can be and how effective he can be. He's done this a long time, and he does it well. Invariably, when we work on the bridge of the Enterprise, there is a certain nightclub quality that the actors have come to use as a place to sing, dance, and mostly just openly abuse each other's character. So that was something that didn't fail to surface again when we made this movie. I'm hoping that the future of Star Trek is in good hands as a result of this film. It's certainly in good hands with Rick Berman, who is carrying on Roddenberry's mantle, as he is constantly reminded. And if the movie works as well as we all hope it will, I think there could be another 30 years of Star Trek.